Hey folks, welcome back to Let's Play Legend of Mana on the series JG, and I've done it, I've broken down, and I'm reading the lore. I did have some minor sync problems in the last video, it seems like. The visuals of the screen would be switching over while I was still reading the text. So, it seems like it's pretty small desync, and I shut down and reopened the recording software, so maybe that'll help. I don't know. But soon many new beings were born, such as humans and fairies. Humans used mana to power their creations, and fairies amplified the power of mana with song and dance. Then, from beyond the heavens, 6 colored beams of light shone down upon the land. The 6 flamies gazed upon Faldiel and watched as all life there prospered. A new age had begun. So, they didn't really explain where humans and fairies came from. The dragons. Flamies of legend never returned from their heavenly ascent, and down below many creatures similar to them came into being. Among them, dragons inherited the flamies' divine nature, and became a species capable of deep introspection. They took it upon themselves to protect Faldiel from its many foes. Who were its foes? The fallen flamies. Worms are said to be flamies that fell into another world. They are able to be summoned into this one by powerful mages. Worms possess the formidable power of the flamies, but lack their noble disposition. True flamies are said to be regal and divine, unlike dragons and worms, but none can truthfully claim to have seen these awe-inspiring beasts in the flesh. Concerning humans. Humans were destined to reproduce and populate the land, and in time they developed the technology to build. Soon they gave dominance over all physical things. The humans who live in this world come in different forms, but they are all humans. Some inherit their characteristics from their parents, while others are shaped through their experiences. Very deep, thank you. Concerning fairies. Fairies have transparent wings, which are not used for flying, and are shed as they grow older. Only young fairies can be seen by humans, but their bodies fade from view with the passage of time. Eventually they become completely invisible to the human eye. That time I actually quit out a little early for some reason, so I'm going to throw myself off if I look at this later for sync. Look at that! Oh, I guess it's a boot. I'm looking at the different pictures that make up the boundaries in top right corner. It's like, that looks kind of phallic. Oh, I think it's a little booty. I'm your booty man, I'm your booty man. The mana tree sustained the bond between the worlds of humans and fairies. Plants exist in both these dimensions. It's like Ihadorka stuff. Ihadorka is a being capable of existing in multiple dimensions. Part of Happy Island. Absorbing the mana of Faldiel and releasing it into the atmosphere, humans use trees for fuel or to make tools, thereby imbuing inanimate objects with the power of mana. Fairies, on the other hand, use the mana released by plants to make Faldiel a better place. Sorcerers. Although not on a par with fairies, all humans were once able to harness the power of mana. The ability to draw on this power was originally bestowed upon all humans equally, but an over-reliance on machines caused many to lose touch with their natural world and forget this skill. In some, this innate ability to control mana lay dormant, and in later ages, those who rediscovered it were called mages. Anise. The Great Witch Anise was the first mage to go down in history. She bored a hole into the mana tree and built a laboratory within it. The flow of mana into the human and fairy world suddenly ceased. Anise had diverted the vast amount of mana into her workshop so that she might construct a jewel she called the Eye of Flamey. This powerful stone brought out the evil in whoever touched it. I think Anise was the kind of bonus extra boss. Sorry, in Trials of Mana, wasn't she? It's like the original Seiken Densetsu 3. The big bad at the end is either the Dragon Emperor or the Archfiend or the Lich King. And then in the Trials of Mana remake, they add this thing after you beat the main story, where you can go take on Anise, who apparently made an Eye of Flamey, which will bring out the evil in whoever touches it. Mystical stones. In the Age of Myth of Mana? The stones that the Mana Goddess gave to the Moon Gods were the most powerful source of magic known. However, some mighty sorcerers born in later ages also came into possession of similar stones. Anise tried to obtain such a jewel when she made the Eye of Flamey, but her creation was difficult to control and extremely dangerous. The Golden Age ends. Before long, many others learned how to construct their own Eyes of Flame. As a result, the mana waves became chaotic, and shadows clouded the hearts of mankind. The violent pulse tore rifts between the dimensions, and evil surged through the souls of the people of Faldiel. The spiritual bond between planet and its inhabitants had been broken. An age had ended, though once pure land had been tarnished. It's all Anisa's fault, that bitch. The Aeon of Heraclius. The land was then ruled by fiendish entities who could control the chaotic waves. Those who saw the truth cried in anguish, but the mages rejoiced at their newly obtained powers, asserting that this world was the future they desired. The mages declared the inception of a new 1,000-year kingdom they named the Aeon of Heraclius. Yeah, people declaring 1,000 years empires are usually jerks. The Holy War. Aion, the leader of the fairies, sent an army to vanquish Anis. In the ensuing battle, hundreds of Anis's mages fought fairy warriors that numbered in the thousands. The battle raged overnight. And by dawn, almost all the fairies had been slain. The few remaining fairies survived as best they could in the world of humans. Okay, so humans are bad, and they kill the fairies. Got it. Out from hiding. Though the fairies thought that all humans were enemies, they soon discovered that there were those in the human world that empathized with them. With the help of these humans, the fairies were once again able to go to war with the Anis and her mages. The fairies emerged victorious, but it came at a great cost during the battle. The mana tree burned to the ground. Eye of Flame. Although it was thought that many eyes of flame would be recovered from the ashes, only 3 were found. Aion, the fairy leader, descended into the netherworld. He refused to be reincarnated. Instead, became the lord of the underworld. Okay, I mean, I guess that's a choice you can make. The underworld. Aion created servants from nothing more than his own will. He named them shadows, and they guided newly departed souls to the underworld. From this time on, all departed souls were brought to the underworld to receive the judgment of its ruler before they could be reincarnated. Yeah, so this game has Hades and reincarnation. The 7th moon. Anis was killed by a stone called the 7th moon. The legend had it that Anis, a master of the Eye of Flame, was defeated by a fairy warrior who had harnessed the power of the strange and mysterious new jewel. Peace, albeit brief. After the holy war of the mana tree ended, the flow of mana to the world resumed. Whereas before mages would use dangerous magic to steal from others, now the land produced enough for everyone. However, the surviving mages could not stand to be considered equal to their fellow creatures. Yeah, I figured this was going to go poorly. And so sought magic that could bring everyone under their control. Jerks. The Mage Towers. The mages began building towers all over Fadiel at locations with high concentrations of mana in order to regain the Eyes of Flame. When the fairies got wind of this, they set to work disrupting the mages' plans. Whenever a tower was built, an army of fairies would march to destroy it. Such skirmishes continued for centuries, and in time all of humanity came to think of fairies as evil beings. Mountain Sanctuary. Elise, who later called herself Anuela, who went from being called Tokichiro to Hideyoshi just to make it confusing, was the daughter of Anis and had the power to... It's like Matsuyama, something or other, Matsudaira becomes Ieyasu Tokugawa. Like all them Nobunaga's ambition / samurai warrior characters changing their names around just to make it impossible to follow the story. And now they're doing it here too. After fleeing her mother's... Hold on. Elise, who later called herself Anuela, was the daughter of Anis and had the power to bring mundane objects to life. After fleeing her mother's self-righteous rule, she settled in the northern mountains and there created a community of dolls who would obey her every command. They came to be called Magicali, and her art was promulgated by the mages who revered her. Okay, so you have some weird girl, daughter of, like, the original Queen of Evil. The weird girl just makes obedient dolls. The Artificers. Anuela created 2 types of Magicali. One was imbued with life, the other she called artifacts and had hidden powers. Although artifacts had weaker magic than the Eyes of Flame, they were simpler to construct. The creation of Eyes of Flame was often beset by accident, so making artifacts became the most popular kind of magic. King Argot. The King of Dragons, Argot, destroyed all of the mages' towers in the land of the fairies. Argot then opened a hole into another world and called innumerable monsters through it. Records state that he was eventually consumed by evil and was banished by the fairies from their world. Thanks, Argot. Thanks for destroying our those towers. Not sure why you opened a hole to another dimension and called innumerable monsters through you. We're gonna have to let you go. Leucemia. Like, again, okay, we're now about halfway through the lore. None of this connects to anything that we're doing in this game. From his new home in the darkness of Limbo, Argot summoned a worm in the shape of a flamey. It was called Leukemia, the Worm of Light, and the greatest of all the worms. Legends say leukemia... Was it maybe leukemia? Like, I feel weird saying leukemia. Legends say that Lusmia raised each and every mage tower to the ground and then perished trying to swallow an entire volcano. What the fuck you do that for? And why is there a worm of light? Worms are supposed to be evil. The Lily Peas. The Lily Peas are a small tribe that call the northern mountains home and are said to have much in common with Anuela's dolls. The only one who ever visited Anuela was the tall and graceful Selva. He flew to her on the back of a bird and often took her dolls to see the outside world. Okay. The Charcoal Maker. Mentos, the Fresh Maker. In a charcoal maker's hut, a little girl waited for her father to return home. Her name was Magnolia, and her father made a living by hunting and making charcoal. Selva gave one of the Anuela's dolls to Magnolia. Why are we hearing about this? Anisa's Fire. The doll that Selva gave Magnolia had red stones for eyes, but little did he know they were the eyes of flame that Anisa had made. Then one day, without warning, the eyes burst into flames and reduced the little hut to ashes. The Deceitful Mage. Magnolia lost her life in the hut as it burned down, but the doll was saved. From that day, the doll called herself Magnolia, and she stayed with the Lily Piece until one day she left with the mage. However, the mage only befriended Magnolia to steal the jewels that were her eyes, the Eyes of Flame, for they contain more mana energy than any artifact could hold. The Birth of Gaia. Anuela saw through the mage's plot and left the mountain to stop him, predicting a recurrence of the terrible events of the past. On her journey, she gave life to a rocky hill, so the mage's caravan could not progress further. The living hill called itself Gaia, and its knowledge seemed deeper and more vast than Anuela's. Okay, so she created it, but it's smarter than she is. Anuela asked Gaia for guidance and prepared for war. So Gaia we have met. That was the living cave guy. The Conductor. All the fairies fought on Anuela's side using many enchanted instruments. The mage's forces fell apart against the power of the instruments with their infinite mana power. Thereafter, Anuela came to be known as the Flying Contrabassist to humans and the Conductor among fairies. Sure, the Flying Contrabassist, of course. The Great Halcyon. Halcyon, the Great Mage, was last to stand against Anuela. He fought fiercely using a stone called the Seventh Moon, but the mages under his command began to quarrel over the stone's possession, and Halcyon left the front lines in disgust. Gamaswald. The mages made a magic circle with the Eyes of Flame and summoned the Worm of Thunder, Gamaswald, to attack Anuela, but the Lily Piece lured Gamaswald into a cave and killed it. The commander of the Lily Piece was none other than Selva of the Four Winds. Well, of course! Trouble brewing. It became known to the mages that magical instruments could be used as weapons. The mages took the remaining Eyes of Flamey and the instruments acquired in previous battles and fled to the east. There they made instruments of immense mana power and dedicated them to their new ruler, Lonway. Lonway? Emperor Lonway. The mages provided Lonway with their magic and urged him to prepare for battle with the fairies. Lonway's army then marched into the ancient city of Mindaz to open the gates to the land of fairies. This move sent shockwaves across the world, and a brutal war broke out as nations jostled for position in the new and confusing political landscape. King Rickrot IV. He's gonna rickroll you. One king, Rickrot IV, was supported by Anuela, who supplied him with a squadron of flying wooden horses to fight against the Lonway and his mages. He came to be known as the King of Wooden Horses, and many brave warriors enlisted in his army. Of course they did. War on Sacred Land. Gato Grottos were Faldiel's power nexus. Okay, now that's actually a thing I recognize. Protected by the ghosts of the ascetics. What? Many Gato monks fought as soldiers, and the high priest sent their own souls into battle to fight off beings from foreign worlds. Intense battles played out across the dimensions, with Gato as their bloody stage. Okay, so there are warrior monks and cat ladies. Rosiati. Rosiati was an archer who could pierce a warrior's chest with an arrow from miles away. It was hoped that his bravery and skill would seal victory for Lonway, but he only joined Lonway's ranks on the promise of a hefty reward. Okay, the chase. So, this was the episode where the Daleks had their own time machine and were chasing Doctor Who. Oh, hold on, that's different. In the midst of intense skirmishes between Rickrot and Lonway's forces, Selva of the Four Winds brought his army of Lillipedes and Flowerlings to fight on Rickrot's side. Lonway then ordered Rosiata to kill Selva. No one had ever expected one of Rosiata's arrows, and the chase was on. Ever escaped one, excuse me. Selva. Despite Rosiati's zealous pursuit, Selva continued to command his forces, but he could not evade the archer forever. As the arrow Rosiata loosed pierced Selva's heart, he was set upon by countless Lillipedes. The little creature bore down on the decorated archer. Little creatures bore down on the decorated archers. It made an unexpected proposal to become wisdom. To become a wisdom and walk the same path as them. Oh. Was Raziati the big red weird wisdom? Nunezak the Conjurer. Okay, never mind. It's slowly starting to get to be about characters that we know. Nunezak was Lonway's best and most powerful summoner. He called forth Freymold, the Worm of Fire, on Lonway's orders as the tide of war began to turn against them. Nunezak summoned one monster after another until Lonway was killed. Nunezak's own body became trapped in the dimension on the other side of its magic circle. Olbone the Warrior. That's the guy who rules hell now, I think. Aeon's forces, the creatures of shadow, joined the fray from the underworld. This army of shadows would catch living beings and hurl them into the underworld, trapping them there for eternity. Olbon the Swordsman descended alone into those murky depths and defeated Aeon in single combat with his blade. Freymold. Freymold, the worm summoned by Nunezak, flew across Faldiel and burned Rosiata's jungle to ashes. Rosiati was incensed and defected to Anwela's forces to exact his revenge. The Knight of Truth. Lazdanak was the holy knight of Rickrot's army, who had learned the spell of truth from the fairies. With this incantation, he defeated Freymold, but it is told that he later fell to a fairy's curse. Yeah, they called him the N-word. No, not the N-word. I was going to say C-word, and then I switched. Never mind. It's just a curse. They used a bad word, is what I'm trying to get to. I don't know why I went towards N-word. I should have gone with something else. A new chapter. Finally. This story's going to go somewhere new. After the war came to an end, Rickrot IV built churches and began compiling the Book of Divine Guidance. He also founded the Academy of Magic. Sorry, folks. And hung a portrait of the Great Witch Anise inside, even summoning her spirit to it, much to her daughter Anwela's displeasure. Temples purged. The temples lost many of their monks and priests as they came under Rickrot's rule. Some of the priests were forcibly enrolled in the Academy of Magic as researchers, so as to remove any potential dissidents from the world's religious organizations. Anwela's End. In the years following the war, Rickrot sent soldiers to capture and eliminate the survivors of Lonway's army, as well as the fairies, which he claimed harbored powers most evil. Anwela fled and locked herself in a place named the Graveyard of Artifacts, never to emerge again. So that's where that weird junkyard full of toys is. The elusive Mana Stone. The seventh Mana Stone was long sought after for its special power, and its existence is recorded many times in history. The Jumi were first to be suspected of having it. Many of them were hunted and killed after the Fairy Wars, their cores removed in surgical procedures aimed at finding that elusive seventh jewel. Mudstones. When Jumi were being hunted in the search for the seventh Mana Stone, many died after intentionally lessening the energy flow in their jewel cores. These Jumi made this choice to protect the secrets of their people. Mages began deriding them as mudstones as a result. Hold on. I probably need to be paying attention to this part. They intentionally lessened their magic. Okay, so that it's something they're doing to be less of an attractive target to these evil mages who are trying to steal their cores. But they can kill them. The Angels. Many changes were afoot in the land of fairies, as Zuf'ben became their leader. The spiritual waves of the two worlds were becoming amplified, and many expected them to fuse. Zuf'ben lamented the way humans had fallen from grace, and called upon higher beings for help. The angels answered his prayers. The Killer Angels. Jana. Angels are beings who serve the goddess and cannot normally be seen by fairies or humans. After hearing Zuf'ben's pleas, 7 angels... 7 Spanish angels. That's a good song, actually. Is that actually 7 Spanish angels, or am I misremembering the title? After hearing Zuf'ben's pleas, 7 Spanish angels chose to reincarnate in the land of fairies. They sailed there on Jana, a ship with its own consciousness. Okay. Reincarnation. In order to steer Jana, the angels chose to reincarnate into fairies and humans. Once reborn, the angels would lose their memories until Jana could awaken them. Tainted Minds. Tainted Minds. Zuf'ben rode Jana and searched the lands of both fairies and humans to find 7 angels. But humans attacked Jana out of fear of a flying ship. During the attack, the minds of those aboard the ship were tainted with evil. Forsaken angels. The angels transmuted into their human and fairy forms, but unable to sense Jana's benevolence, they lost all awareness of their true nature. Some of the angels even joined the battle to gain control of Jana. Eventually, the ship turned to evil and was captured by those with dark intentions. Of course. Recollected memories. Even though Janna had not awakened them, 6 of the 7 angels regained their memories. 1 cried for a fallen friend, 1 confronted Janna, 1 crossed swords with a former angel, 1 heard the guidance of wisdom, 6 angels' memories restored, but the 7th would never reawaken. The 7th angel. In the dreams of the 6 angels, the 7th angel appeared, but he did not answer the calls of the others. He was neither human nor fairy, but a Jumi. Both humans and fairies had exploited the Jumi to strengthen their magic in the war. Janna's fate. The angels gave up on retrieving Janna and chose to fight for the Jumi. With the help of the wisdoms, they built a ship to confront Janna and join the war. The angels defeated Zuf'ben, who had turned to evil, of course. And, at this point, Ator, son of Toran, defeated the hideous spider god. The angels defeated Zuf'ben, who had turned to evil, and the human leader. They managed to seal Janna in the gap between dimensions and remained in Fadiel thenceforth. Divine guidance. As time went by, the notion of rule for peace, first proposed by Rikrot, changed to peace for rule. The Book of Divine Guidance was used to propagate the Empire's religious and political ideals, and so many called heretics were hunted down by the Empire's army. Oh, great. The Deathbringer. Irzwali Anashalk was the 15th leader of the Spider God's armies, but they would be defeated by Ator with the powerful charm shield of Mordor and its secret Dakota ring. Okay. Irzwali Anashalk was the 15th emperor of the Anashalk Empire, also known as the Deathbringer. He was a descendant of Rikrot Anashalk, a hero in the era of the Fairy Wars, but his oppressive reign caused the Empire's downfall. The Holy Knight, that's a real word, dude. It's not even fantasy made up. The chivalric code, which Rikrot IV established, led to the emergence of many great heroes in a short time period. Julio Liot was the most decorated warrior in the Imperial Army, and thus he was given the title of Holy Knight. I was out too long and I did not see what's becoming of me. Ride the tiger. That would be Holy Diver, not Holy Knight. Anyway, Holy Knight, a position that saw him become protector of the Empire. The Liot family has passed this title down through generations to this day. The Halloways. It's a new sitcom coming this fall. To commemorate the souls of heroes lost during the war, Rikrot IV established shrines to the Mana Goddess and closed down most of the older temples, aside from the one in Gato. The Halloway family was a line of priests, but under the rule of Rikrot's empire, its influence diminished. So wait, the Halloway family is just... It's called the Halloways. They're just mentioned very briefly. They were a line of priests, but they didn't really do anything. The Windcallers are a clan that can speak to and control the wind. They live quietly in a village at the base of Norn Peaks, and keep their watchful eyes out for any intruders that might disrupt their way of life. We did meet them. The Empire falls. Irzwali Anashalk desired immortality and sent his army to retrieve the Dragon Stones, which the ancient dragons protected. All his attempts failed, and he lost his life as a result. However, his overwhelming desire for immortality did not go unnoticed by Tajara, the Bone Dragon, who chose him to become his dragoon. And that's it. Okay, so... it just kind of ends randomly. It's like it... Whatever. Produce. A crown-shaped garlic clove that might make you feel like royalty plus charm. Oh, so we actually can, Toadstool Shed, the Black family. It's got a little penis, chimney. Alright, so we could read about masked potato. Potato with colorful patterns. Lily pods. It's got magic in. Alright, whatever. This game's weird, dudes. Alright, so this video is going to be a little on the short side, but having read all the lore between the end of the last video and this one, it seems like it would make sense to call it and come back next time and start the next main story quest, which will be the last story quest for the Jumi. And I don't know if we'll get that done in one video or not. It's been taking 2 videos or so to get some of these bigger ones. But yeah, that's it. We got 2 quests left. The final story event for the Jumi, and then the final story event for the game. Yeah, I guess I'll see you for that next time.